Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Well, greetings, everybody. I know everybody's had their holidays, one into many several holidays that are coming, but tonight we called the meeting to order for the Land Use Committee for Community Board 17. My name is Kwame Afray, Chair of the committee, and we'll roll into the chairperson's report. I'll start off by saying that it's not really much business that's come through the table and the desk, a lot of inquiries and day-to-day stuff, but piggybacking on what happened at the community board general meeting, we did draft the letters, the three letters. The response letter for 3002 Farragut Road was sent out to their course to the representatives, along with the letter regarding the parcel of land that we're assuming may have an impact with the Sears development to our council member Rita Joseph, making a request of what we feel the more or less the letter that was read at the meeting was sent out, a couple of additions or a couple of revisions, but more or less that letter went out. And the final letter to Community Board 14, basically asking for information regarding the development to this date. You know, any hurdles or, you know, problems that they may have incurred, just to bring us up to speed so that we're more on par with what's actually happening next door with our neighbors. In addition, Mr. Daly and I, who's, we'll mention that now, but Mr. Daly and I are trying to work on a date before year's end for a town hall meeting regarding Vital Brooklyn project. We were reached out by the community board 9 representatives. They recently had theirs, and we're trying to find a date that works before the end of the year because when the actual holidays come, the comment period for that racial draft impact study ends, I think, on January 8th. So there may be like a quick meeting that's going to happen or a quick thing that we have to try to put together. Unfortunately, it wasn't really a foresight because honestly, it's Community Board 9's jurisdiction, but they're trying to include us in the process. So we're going to try to get a meeting in before year's end, so possibly sometime in the next 2 weeks that works before the holidays roll in, because more or less once the holidays roll in, this draft period ends on the 8th, which is 7 days after New Year. So it'll be kind of tough, but if you can and you do see that come out, it is coming out quickly, and they are willing to work with us in the short time period to try to give us any information we request. Outside of that, there isn't really much to report. So I'm opening the floor for anybody who has any questions regarding what was stated. Questions? Cool. The approval of the meeting minutes won't happen. I don't believe meeting minutes were distributed. Chairperson reports happened. Again, like I stated, there's no new inquiries or applications officially that's coming to the office. So we moved on to unfinished business. It's kind of quick. Do we have any unfinished business we'd like to discuss? Yes, Mr. Biglianti, you have the floor.
Hi, good evening. I don't know if this is really unfinished business, but I was just wondering if there were any updates on the IBX situation, because I know there've been some meetings, but I have been sick. I couldn't attend them, and I was just wondering if anybody here had gone to any meetings and if that's something that we can talk about at this meeting.
Oh, sure. I think Mr. Lewis, that kind of fell between the both of us and Ms. Fairview. He was actually able to attend. Mr. Lewis, do you have any input or any updates regarding the IBX? I think there were 2 meetings held. With the
there were 3.
3 meetings held. Yeah.
Yeah. The first meeting was actually held in the beginning of November at Brooklyn College. The second meeting was in Queens, and then the third meeting was on November 30th in the Sunset Park. Basically, it's an introduction. They tell you they're doing a study. Someone has been awarded the contract to do the study. I can't remember offhand, but I think that information was forwarded. I could get it and forward it in the transportation and public safety meeting, which we're gonna have in January. We wouldn't have one this month because of where it falls at the end of the month. But basically, it's really a raw introduction to what's happening. They're in the preliminary stages of really doing a feasibility study as to how the communities will be affected, what type of construction, the areas in which they want to use these old rail lines are above ground as well as underground in certain areas, those old commercial rail lines. So it's a light rail project, which is something that is a little bit um, easier, I believe, to kind of implement than a full rail system, less expensive. So basically, all they're doing is really reaching out to get community feedback. In that meeting in particular, they had boards, different boards showing the different areas. And what was one of the most important parts, I think, there was a board where they asked people to pick the three most important stops to them. And, it showed you the entirety of the light rail, the IBX line from Queens all the way over, and you see where people generally put the most important spot. So for us in East Flatbush, the most important spot ended up being, I think, Utica Avenue and like Farragut. That was one of the most important spots. And so basically, it's going to be ongoing. I am trying to see who is our liaison at the MTA because there are other meetings that happen that are really where most of the heavier, more intriguing discussions are had. And I'm trying to get access to those because those are the areas where you actually kind of get the in-depth information as to what is the time period, when is this actually going to start, what time or when can the community really be engaged and show them themselves, well, show if they're in support or not in support. So, we will try to keep abreast of that. I know that Hazel Martinez with Brooklyn Level Up has been very aggressive with that, and she's staying to see in particular how our community will be affected, throughout this entire process. So that's basically what I had from that meeting that I went to at Brooklyn College for IBX.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I believe there's 2 train stops in our district. It's the last and then the Utica stop, right? It's the Flatbush Brooklyn College and then
Yeah,
the Utica Avenue. All right.
yeah.
I'm just curious about if they spoke about, which is really what I wanted to know, if they spoke about where the entry point for the Brooklyn College actual IBX station is going to be in relationship to what's there,
So if you look at it, that rail line,
Yeah, it runs.
when you
It runs
when you
underneath the Target. Yeah,
right, it
yeah.
runs underneath the Target. So there, I believe what they might do, and this is just me, but I've seen them done it already in Manhattan with the 7 train and all of that. They would extend or maybe put a walkway in between the IBX underground to the Flatbush Junction 2 stop, right? I don't see it having too much difficulty to just put a simple walkway, similar to like how you have the walkways at 42nd Street for the shuttle train and the 7 train and everything else.
And the
They have a long walkway.
yeah, like what they did at the Barclays Center to integrate.
Yes, yes.
All right.
That is going to be one of those transfer points to actually get to the regular train lines, right? And so that's basically where I see them kind of coordinating and putting that. But again, we have some time again in terms of that. Right now, they're just checking feasibility, the communities, where this is going to go, who should be involved, and kind of, gearing up really to actually start. Maybe I believe you might see something within the next maybe year and a half to 2 years. That's my estimation. Once everything goes as according to their schedule and plan. In particular, especially now that the MTA has balanced their budget in the first time in history. They actually at the point now where they potentially looking at a 5-year window where they have balanced their budget. So it's the first time I heard this in my lifetime. So it's amazing that after a pandemic in which they say they lost ridership and everything else, now you hear they're balancing the book and they're actually on par to actually maybe push through these projects a little bit quicker, a little bit faster.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I do need to, speaking on that, it's just making me think about, we do need to follow up on the tax abatement thing. Just reminded me that in that conversation. I gotta follow up because you know that the other one expired and it was supposed to be implementing a replacement. Then it got quiet, and quiet usually means that something probably happened. So I'm gonna have to follow up on the tax abatement issue, which has probably reduced a little bit of the pace of some of the construction that's been going on. That any acquisition that happened prior to whatever date, I think that they exhausted most of that. So I'm pretty sure that something in the calendar year is going to be coming up regarding the tax abatement in our neighborhoods. Outside of that, couple of conversations that I don't really think were land use directed, but there seems to be a lot of concern about the congestion pricing. As a matter of fact, I just got an RSS notification that the board actually just approved it, and they're going to start slowly trickling it out and start putting pricing to the actual public. These things we have to just pay attention to. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of outwardly effects that could happen and economic impact that could happen as a regard of it. So it can push and pull the economic strings of families in different directions. And honestly, it's always going to be economically driven. The idea is to bring money in, but the impacts of it seem to be, being subsided. They seem to be just wanting to push it through, and it seems like it's going to be happening quite aggressively soon. Ms. Viglianti?
Yeah, I was concerned about just going back to the IBX for a minute, that the wherever they're going to put the stop on Utica Avenue, there's private land ownership there and businesses, and I'm wondering if, they're going to come in and take that stuff over by eminent domain, or like what will happen, or I don't know if that's even in the works yet or not, but I guess I'm kind of concerned about those businesses over there.
Yeah, I haven't really seen, that's why my inquiry was the same. I haven't really seen renderings of, I mean, we know where the stop's going to be, but like Mr. Lewis said, they could probably do something adjacent or away, something that brings you away from those businesses, we would hope. But I haven't personally seen any renderings of what they actually trying to put out there, of what these stops were going to look like and how they're going to integrate it into the system, per se. But we'll pay attention. If it's happening, then I'm sure that they'll be out sooner rather than later. I'm not sure if we're at the stage where we can make a request for those type of, renderings to be shared with us. I would think at this stage they're developed, much like the Chisholm project that's happening in our neighborhood. There was a lot of renderings and a lot of things that were developed in the background, and then they came and displayed it, and they seemed like they had a thorough idea of what was happening. Pretty sure that project is probably going to be under the jurisdiction of one of the city agencies to help facilitate it. So it's something we have to pay attention to. It is going to change the makeup of the neighborhood. Most likely in that Utica Farragut area, probably the best, because I think there's just the abandoned car wash that's there.
It's a car wash, but then is it gonna be on that side? Because the other side, there's also businesses.
Yeah, then you have the storage facility, then down, yeah, you have businesses in the general area. Yeah, I mean, we're just spitballing here, but I haven't seen anything proposing where the exact stop is going to be.
Mhm.
I haven't. I'm not sure whose hand was, Miss Martinez, and then Mr. Tate.
I went to the session in Sunset Park.
Okay.
And the chairman for the MTA was present, and you had an opportunity to speak with the chairman. Apparently, they're just in the beginning stages. They haven't even begun the environmental impact study as yet, and they're feeling out the communities as to what people think. They did not really pay enough attention to our community as far as I can see, but the chairman was definitely there, and people had an opportunity to speak one-on-one. There is no decision on the eminent domain use, even though there are some areas where the tracks will have to be widened. So, I mean, the 49th Street is could possibly be in jeopardy.
Mhm. I have to study exactly. Yeah. I mean, sorry. I'm just thinking about like something that you knew that was always there, you never paid attention to. But now, yeah, you're right. It does run through behind and through some neighborhoods with some lighting, with some housing, you know. But yeah, like Ms. Martinez said, we have to try to take advantage and have representation at these meetings to the best of our ability. You know, we're a block, so if one of us is there, that information is vital. But it's good that it's early. Being early on something is always good. But I have to try to get into the communications. Mr. Lewis, what communications are you getting? Where did you sign up to actually get feedback on this? Like where, because I know it's not coming directly to our office per se. So where's the hub for information regarding this project?
So during the meeting, I signed up to get ongoing information directly from the MTA, because they do have a not organization, they do have how I could say it, specific department that's allocated to the government, the public's feedback on
Okay.
the IBX project. So I signed up to get those updates. What I will have to do is maybe go and sit down with Hazel Martinez to see if not Hazel, sorry, Allison, to see if Allison got additional ways of contacting. Because I remember a couple months, maybe in September, October, I was told that there are other meetings
Yeah,
where some of the MTA and the higher ups meet up to discuss. And I forgot who it was, but she said that we are not at that table to hear what's really going down.
I was Miss
And
Quash.
I've been misquestioned, and I'm trying to get to that place where I could get access to that. Being that I am the transportation chair, hopefully that will allow me some type of access to those type of meetings, because again, those are the things that are hashed out when it finally hit the ground by us. By the time we turn around, it was a discussion that was had maybe a year or two in advance to when it starts. And then by the time the project starts, we are in a position where we fighting from behind.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Tate.
Yeah,
Sorry? Yes, Mr. Tate. Can anyone hear him? No?
No, can't hear.
hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Tate.
Yes, I had problem on unmuting. Yes, I went to the Brooklyn meeting.
The Brook-
As
the
a matter of
Brooklyn
fact, before I do that, eh?
you said the
Yeah,
Brooklyn
the
College?
one that they had at Brooklyn College.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one. And one of my concern was the eminent domain. And they told me that they cannot rule that out. Okay, because what happens, starting from, I would say maybe somewhere in, like from Ocean Avenue, Coney Island Avenue, until at least Albany Avenue, is only one track that runs. So they're gonna have to expand to be able to put a second track over there. And the land, I know most of it is not in our community board, but it's not to put two lines, two tracks over there without widening it, which will affect all those houses on Avenue H. And on East 17th Street, it's the same thing. So specifically, they cannot rule of eminent domain for those who are concerned. And yes, the spot that they said where they're going to have it in Utica and Farragut is right over here. They have the abandoned
The car wash.
car wash.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's it. And they think that maybe they might do what they call it, like a crossover thing to go from one side of Utica to the other. That's the information they gave. But definitely I'm concerned with the eminent domain, especially around the Avenue H area.
Thank you, Mr. Tate.
Oh, also, Mr. Frank,
Yes.
I did send you, I forwarded you an email that they sent me. I sent it to your, was it Yahoo or one of those accounts? It wasn't to, I sent it to every account because I could not find the chair. CB,
That's fine.
use okay, so this way you could use that to, to get the emails from them,
Yeah, I see it, Mr. Tate.
for the IBX. Okay.
Thank you. I think Ms. Martinez put something inside of the chat that's showing the presentation, which is good. As far as eminent domain, it's happened in our community, not in our community, but it's happened in Brooklyn. Most recently, probably with the Barclays Center. You've heard the stories. It's been settled, right? But I don't think that we've ever experienced anything like that here. Can anyone speak to the history? Have we experienced anything like that? And in new business, I actually want to bring up a potential scenario that came up to see how we would deal with it. Have we had anything like an eminent domain situation here? I don't really think that there would be a facility or a building that would trigger that, but
I don't think so.
right,
I don't think so.
all right. Ms. Quashi.
Yes, good evening.
Good
I also attended the Brooklyn College event, the first one. And out of that, I received an email today with stating from the IBX requesting any input that I might want to add for my feedback concerning the IBX project. So I will share that with you, Mr. Frey, so that you can pass it all on to all the community members, so that anyone can put their input about their suggestions, ideas about the project and what they would like to see go on with our community. So
Thank you.
so that's open to everyone. So that came out as output from the meeting. that they shared with everyone if you attended.
Thank
So
you
I'll
for
send
that.
it to, so I'll send it to your email address.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. I
And
just
Miss-
signed up for the thing Mr. Tate sent me. Yes, you have something else to say? I'm sorry.
Yes, and the second thing, there was an accident this week that was on Glenwood and Schenectady
Okay.
by the overpass over there where across from the homeless shelter.
Okay.
And a tractor trailer hit it, and that is part of the IBX project. That's one of the old train lines where the work trains go. I can also send you the picture from Citizen app.
You said a tractor trailer hit a facility, a building?
They hit the overpass,
Oh, okay.
the
Okay.
overpass where they're going to be repurposing that part of the light rail. And that should be surveyed by them to see what's going to happen if they utilize those train tracks. Because those tractor trailers think that they can fit underneath those overpasses. And if the light rail is going across it at the time, we're going to have some great lawsuits.
Yeah, I'm sure. I would have to think that they know that the damage occurred. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm not sure how to address it. You know.
I don't know, but it's something to consider
Yeah.
because we have a lot of tractor trailers around here. And I think we have quite a few accidents also over there by Remsen. So they go underneath it and they don't make it. They don't make it. And that was quite a big accident on I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. It almost turned over.
Curious. If you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, I
Sharing-
will. I sure will. Thank you.
So I'm just looking at and hey, Allison, did I see your hand raised?
Yes, the links that I dropped and the 3 links I dropped in the chat are actually from that email that Vanessa was talking about. And I presume what George was forwarded you as well. So this is the opportunity for people who didn't come to the open house to be able to participate. Since I did go to the one in Sunset Park, I did make some connections with the government affairs person, Nick Rollison, who wants to engage the community going forward. They're really just like my mother said, I got a sense they're really in the preliminary stages of this is really just the upsell to get community on to back it and not have so much upfront and animosity towards the project before they've actually really done any real steps. So it gives me a little bit more, well, I wouldn't say comfort, but I just realized that we have more of an opportunity to really engage for what we need to do in terms of organizing community. So that gives us some time, and there will be these councils that are supposed to be created, that like community councils, so we can actually put forward people to be on them, be it at the organizational level or individuals. And the other thing is that I'm actually, Brooklyn Level Up will be, it's confirmed now, we're going to have a studio with Columbia University this next semester for spring. That will involve SBS as well, someone who's works at SBS, to work on doing a student studio about the IBX and Utica Avenue, so people can be involved. We'll have like walking tours, community conversations, so we can use that platform as well to help engage the community around these issues, because we'll have urban planning students and from other disciplines to be able to help us have those conversations.
So in some facet, we are in the process of doing like an urban planning environment
Yes.
type thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I expect everyone here and everyone else in the community for us to be able to get them involved, because these are opportunities where we can at least have people who are learning and also professionals help us to gather our thoughts, opinions, and and catalog what our needs are, be it for residents or businesses in the area as well.
I think we need to pay attention to all aspects of it, especially something like that is gonna probably trigger many, many variances on our part that people are gonna want
Absolutely.
hubs around the potential stops. So,
Including housing and everything else.
yeah,
So-
so, being involved at the early steps is good, but sharpening our iron also on how we address and, like Allison said at the beginning of the year, getting our wants and our needs up front. So, hopefully they could check a bunch of boxes before anything gets there, and whatever the outcome is, it's a reflection of what our needs and our likes and our wants are, from green spaces to community facilities. So yeah, I'll participate as much as we can. I'm gonna have to, and stay educated on how things happen, and how things get through. We haven't experienced that yet, also, because we might be in a situation where some other things happen and then some things get through, even though we're against it. So prepare ourselves for that as well. Mr. Tate, is your hand still up from prior, or is it a new question?
No, no, it's up here. I just wanted to emphasize what Mr. mentioned about the accident in Glenwood Road. I just
Mhm.
want to emphasize that that's not the first time it happened. There's a history of that. This is at least the third time that I know of, because I do remember one time that they have to do some repair to the concrete over there,
Yeah.
because there was a big accident a few years back. I don't have the dates. I'm sure I could research and find out, but definitely at least the third time that there's something like that happened. So they cannot say that it's like a one incident thing. Just wanted to emphasize that.
Surprised is not a sign up, but like usual with heights requirements, so that trucks know that they can't go that way. Isn't that like the standard? Shouldn't the DOT be on top of something like that? Having the sign with the height restriction, like I see at most other underpasses. I don't think the sign is there. I know exactly what you're speaking about, but I don't think the sign is there.
Throughout my childhood living in this community, there have always been these incidents here and there at all of the overpasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only one it doesn't happen at is the one at Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Terminal Market, because it's too low for the trucks to even go anywhere near it. But all the other ones they think they can make it. And throughout my childhood, I remember at everyone in Remsen, all of them have these incidents.
Yeah, and there's not even a truck thoroughfare on Glenwood. So they're not even supposed to be tractor trailers driving on Glenwood Road or Farragut or Foster or, so they don't go on the main roads, which is part of the problem in some instances.
But since the pandemic, that has been laxed,
Yeah,
because a lot of people were not traveling at that point in time, but it's not being enforced, and it's something that has been pointed out at several meetings. It's something that I will have to get back to transportation to find out if they will do enforcement or not, because it's just been one of those things. And particularly once you pass Farragut and Albany, there's not supposed to be any tractor trailers passing through that, because that's fully residential, but several tractor trailers will pass through.
What's
But
Yeah.
once you pass,
my issue is the signage, right?
yeah,
Is there signage? Is there things that are supposed to be there or was there at what point were cut down?
there are, there's truck, the signs that say no truck traffic, they're there. No through way for trucks, those things that have like a truck with a thing through it.
Yeah.
They're there, but they don't pay attention to them. Maybe we need more of them, but also they know it's not enforced, so they're just gonna do it.
They usually roll out additional methods when signs don't work. They usually spray the street with the same signage so that it's obvious. Now that there's other methods that I think that they could put in place to not ultimately prevent it, because if somebody's gonna ignore it, they're gonna ignore it. But there's better ways to get the message to the actual drivers, you know? And then the punishment needs to, you know, be enforced as well. So it's a conversation.
When we have specifically right on, between 48th and 49th on Farragut, the paint store there, that place has been there for like 50, 60 years, but now they get tractor trailers full of supplies coming in that they didn't have before. So there's always tractor trailers between 48th and 49th blocking the streets. They're making deliveries, like mostly it's just, you know, their tractor trailers are going through, but these are actually stopping for deliveries. So they're there for like an hour or more, just blocking traffic.
That's something that I will pursue, because I even had an issue with that, and I went into the office and I asked them about it, and the gentleman who was there kind of brushed me off. So
Well, who would be in the enforcement body? Is this an enforcement body in DOT that would take that head on? It's not a traffic.
it could be three different groups. In the 67th precinct, there is a traffic enforcement division that would deal with stuff like that, and then you could go to traffic enforcement, the actual ticket agents also, and then to DOT. So there's three different people that could get involved with that in terms of enforcing that. So it's something that, again, it's dealing with the liaisons from DOT, the 67th precinct, and then, you know, maybe reaching out to the traffic agents at the south, the on what's that, Ralph and Church Avenue,
Mhm.
reaching out to them to see if they would send somebody over there in enforcement to kind of put the tickets on and kind of deal with the situation. So those are the three agencies that can be alerted about the issue, and you know, we just have to keep pushing them to see who will respond and deter that.
Mr. Frank, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. What I was going to say is there's a specific division of handles tractor trailers, and it is in the NYPD traffic division, traffic division, and they're in Manhattan. If you want to, you have to contact that division directly, and I believe Ms. Frazier made their numbers.
I think I know where the office is actually in Manhattan,
Yeah,
35th Street or something like that, between 7th.
that's it. That's the tractor trailer truck enforcement.
Okay, Mr. Tate, did your hand raised again, or were you done, Ms. Bennett?
Yes. It's regarding that enforcement. I just want to mention that maybe enforcement that it was organized by the 67 precinct, because I complained a lot. I was actually a public safety at the time, and we kept complaining, and they did. On the Farragut Road, they stopped many trucks that did not pass inspection. They had outstanding summonses. A couple of trucks, what they did, they had to throw them away. That is that's to go to trucks that are coming in our neighborhood and that was organized by the 67 precinct. You could talk to Detective Pierre at the time, because he was part of it and organized it. Him and sorry, he was no longer here, but you could talk to Detective Pierre about that. He was instrumental in doing that. And yes, right over here between Farragut, between 43rd, they had two trucks. They could not move them because they had so many violations and did not pass inspection. They came and they tore them away because I was standing there just watching. So it's something that could be done and should be done again. Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Bennett, is your hand still raised?
No.
Okay. So yeah,
Good, go down. There you go.
okay, thank you. Just confirmation of the numbers. I'm taking attendance and just trying to, who's on the phones? Ending in 11? Anybody? Ending in 25?
Yolanda Aline.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Aline. I knew it was you. Just wanted to make sure. I'm not sure it was who 11 is. Okay. Well, so I guess that
Judy
completes. What you said? Judy Aki?
Judy Aki.
Yeah, thank you. So, closing out unfinished business, going into new. It was brought to my attention this weekend about a particular scenario, which I kind of figured it after did some research, and I figured out how it would happen and how it would be affected by it. Again, tapping into the history of the things that's happened in the past. In our history, well, at least not in the one that I've recently researched in my inbox, have we ever in this community had a scenario where a developer tried to purchase the unutilized FAR from another person? Have we had that? Or a business or house of worship? Have we been in that scenario in the history?
You mean where they come to the community board and ask for a variance or something, or they?
Oh, well, that would ultimately be the outcome, right? If situationally speaking, if somebody were to come to your home and ask you if they could purchase your unutilized FAR because they have an adjacent property, that agreement will be made between you and that party privately, but for them to actually execute it, they would need to either come before the community board to get a special variance, or a variance period to be able to utilize that. And I'm just
Well,
curious.
that hasn't happened since I've been on the board. I don't know who, maybe some people that have been on longer, but I've never experienced that at the board level.
Okay. Anyone else?
This is Hazel Martinez.
Yes. Yes, Ms. Martinez. I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I'm not sure if it was me. Excuse me?
No. It's not you, it's probably. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't hear you clearly. Can anyone else hear her clearly?
No, she's breaking up. Choppy.
Yeah, I'm not catching.
She might have to go stand near a window.
No, I'm just not. I'm not.
Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's my understanding that one person sells the air rights, don't the other surrounding people lose theirs?
You said one person owns the FAR?
If they lose their air rights, if they sell their air rights, I think the other surrounding people lose theirs as well.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I'm not sure how that would be, but again, it's foreign to me. It was a potential situation. It's nothing that's official yet.
I don't know if they would I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I don't know if they would technically lose theirs, but they would, they would lose their rights, because if they build, then their air rights are blocked. I don't know if they would legally lose their rights, but it would, you know, it would expand up so they wouldn't have any, you know, they'd lose their light and they'd lose their, you know, I don't really know.
Not sure how it, I think that we have something that's kind of oddly like that. I want to say it's on Church Avenue. I don't know if it still looks the same. It felt like it went up and then over, like over another building. Seemed like we have a scenario like that.
Yeah,
But
so
I'm
if it
sure
went
how
up
it's
over
allowed.
another building, that means that that building gave up their air rights, right? To
Yeah,
let them build up over it.
Where is
trying,
that?
I'm trying to remember if it's in our district or not. I want to say, I think it's not in our district. I want to say it's probably closer to Coney Island. I saw something like that. I saw it was a building, um, not too far from the Emblem Health Facility, church, on one of the side streets. Yeah, on one of the side streets. It was like, yeah, like in the Rugby Road area, not in the Prospect Park South historical area, but closer between like Parkside, like one of those in between streets. I feel like I saw a house with a building going up, and then it kind of went over the house that's there. And the only reason I noticed it because I was doing something at that Emblem Health facility, and I was parked right in front of it. I have to go see, but I'm bringing it up. It's foreign, but I'm sure it happens all the time. From just my understanding, I know it would probably definitely trigger a variance request. I would think it would need to, right? Even if it's done privately, at least I would hope to. I have to go probably call Borough Hall to see how these situations have been handled elsewhere, you know. But stuff like that could possibly. What you said? Who's speaking? Hello. I'm sorry, Miss Bennett. You're breaking up also. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not catching what you're throwing, Miss Bennett. I'm sorry. It's I can't.
I said
Sorry.
okay.
If you place it in the chat. Yes. But yeah, just to I guess prepare the community for the potential, right? To understand, even though it's not our say, what two private parties do with each other, how that type of thing will come across, so that it's not foreign. Should it come across, I think I'm gonna have to do some inquiries on. But I figured I ask the group first. I'm sure with the IBX and a couple of other things that are probably going to happen, the abatement, we'll start seeing versions or similar tactics used like this, especially for buildings or longstanding homeowners that aren't willing to give up whatever they have. It's just something that came across. I thought it was foreign. I didn't think I've seen it in the community in the past, but it's potentially happening. We may have some businesses that may be trying to do something similar. So should it come across, I just don't want it to be a surprise, and I'm going to do the research on my end to see how it's been handled elsewhere. I'll try to find something solid, maybe an example with photographs and pictures, and bring it back to us just to prepare us for the potential. It would be like any other variance that we've dealt with in the past. If they have the rights, they have it. But I'm sure that I'm hoping that it would require a special permit. And that special permit or that special variance would allow reversion back to the actual parcel should anything happen else with the building. I would think that would be the best case for the homeowner or the business owner, should they want to maintain ownership in the property and someone else tries to, take their rights and do some nefarious practice. I would think having those type of provisions in place to protect the original parcel from anything that could happen down the line would be necessary. But again, just have to do some research. It's the first time I've heard of it. Expensive
gentrification. I'm not sure what you're saying. What could be done about expensive gentrification? Oh, sorry, the hands. Three hands. I was reading the chat. I'm not sure who. I'm gonna say Ms. Quashi, and then Mr. Lewis, and then Ms. Biglia. Ms. Quashi, your hands raised. Oh, okay. Mr. Lewis.
Sorry, trying to get it off the mute.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm home during the daytime, and sometimes when I go to the doctors, I see a lot of Hasidics driving up and down and walking around our community, and it seems like they're going shopping up and down Farragut Road. And I don't know if anyone else notices it, but it's quite often. It's like every day. So they're like going up. They're like looking at houses that are occupied, not unoccupied homes, and I don't know what they're doing. So I just want to know that anybody else notice what I'm seeing in the community.
I think you have Ms. Bennett is saying she's seen a similar activity.
Basically, what's happening with that? Remember, at one point, I think Kevin Parker set up a law that you couldn't get the solicitation. At one point in our community, we were getting all these calls, or you would get letters, or you would get like a solicitation stating they want to buy your house or whatever. So what's happening? A lot of these guys that you see are actually the middlemen for a lot of Asian folks who are actually looking to buy real estate. They have done a lot of that in Manhattan, and they're going in the outer boroughs now, looking for real estate to build these buildings. The majority of these buildings that you see going up in our community is, although the face of it is Jewish people on the ground building it, or whoever is doing whatever they're doing, they're actually middlemen for Chinese investors and developers. So basically, whoever has the money to come and take care or get what they need. And what we have to do is educate our people on understanding value, on understanding wealth management, and taking, in terms of having something for the next generation, and teaching the younger generation how to maintain and take care of these things. So you have the generational wealth, right? We are at a place where, what we don't know, we don't know. And some of us don't make an effort to try to know or try to find out, because of the fear of, whatever it is. Somebody taking advantage of me, somebody want to take my property, somebody want to do that, which they can, but you don't even know how to protect yourself and protect what you already own, right? There's this thing with the title and the deeds, and people being able to pull your deed from underneath you because you don't know who has access to the deed. You don't know who's doing what. And all of this is educational wise, why some of the things are happening to us in particular. People see somebody come and offer them money, and they think that's, well, I bought the house in 1970 or 1980, and I bought it for 100,000, and somebody come and bring it and tell you, okay, they'll give you $1 million for it. If they could afford to give you $1 million, what is that property really worth? So it's educational wise. A lot of the times our people fail. Plus two, the people that work so hard to build something or to have it, they die and go. And because they, for whatever reason, didn't instill sometimes the same value into their kids blow it on simple things: a tax lien, the water bill, the property taxes, or whatever it is. So again, it's just educating ourselves in not just running for the first buck. Somebody brings some money to you. You know, for me, I have a running joke. Whenever they call me, I'll tell them, say, listen, my house is worth 3 million. They'll say, well, they'll tell me, well, Mr. Lewis, where you get that from? I say, well, my house is worth 3 million to me. If you want to buy it from me, it's 3 million. And they hang up the phone.
Okay.
So it's all different ways of dealing with them and really trying to understand that these folks moved out, they're coming back because there is a lot of opportunity and things that are coming to Brooklyn in different areas, and they want to be back in the same areas
Yeah.
where some of them once were or their
That is the
parents
curve
once
on
were
moving the front and back.
years before, right? So we just have to understand that and be smart and intelligent about it and really help our people, especially those people that might be older, that mightn't understand what's going on. They own their properties, but they don't have a support system. We need to be that support system so that everybody makes the right and the best choice to maintain
Yeah.
that, that wealth, that generational wealth.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Ms. Viglianti, then Carmel, then Joan Erskine. So Ms. Viglianti, you acknowledge?
Yeah, I almost forgot now what I was gonna say. I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying before, Mr. Afray, about the air rights, and all these things that are with the city of Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If that passes, everything's just gonna be up for grabs. There's gonna be all kinds of stuff going on. Who knows what's gonna go on, and we really need to pay attention. Because air rights, with the city of Yes, people are going to be able to build on their own properties and their own backyards and put up new structures and all kinds of things that are going to be going on that homeowners are not going to be happy with. And I don't know how that's going to impact things like air rights. And so we just have to really be careful because the city of Yes is really going to be a big problem for us. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a major concern. I could actually say that, even in recent conversations, when every conversation is probably followed up with, well, the city of Yes is coming. Like it's like a, it's like an ongoing like nuclear briefcase that's like just roaming and waiting to just come down on us. How we get affected.
It's true.
Yeah, it's like I swear, it's like every time, any casual conversation about something going on or any inquiry from any vendor or any person, and that thing gets brought up like it's the nuclear codes. It's really like I agree with you. It's something that it's gonna come in the facet and how the laws and how our processes change when that gets implemented is also gonna be interesting. I will mention that even something as simple as the bike lanes, we had like a rapid fire response that happened in the past 2 weeks where there was a council member who was trying to pass legislation to opt out the community board's input on that. And we had several calls to the offices, several chairs were called to try to just get in conjunction with another community board to stop this. So we got to just be careful with the people we elect. We have to make sure that they're supporting the things that we want to support. And yeah, even the city of Yes thing, it's there, it's being spoken about, but what it metamorphosizes into in the end, we have to be prepared for it because it may be something that, hopefully doesn't limit our power, but I don't see how it can, it seems to be pro everything but input at this time. So thank you. Carmel?
Thank you. I have a question. Around in the East Flatbush area, especially during the housing crisis, the units that they're building are around 80% area median income and 120% median income. And the community itself is between, well, majority of it is, well, the majority of the median household income around CB17 is around 64,000, but it is also an area where there are people who are in poverty. The poverty rate increased from 9.9% to 17.6%. So that is the picture of the community. So I was wondering, why aren't they building housing units that are between 30% AMI and less than 80% area median income? Are there any tools to prevent this from happening? Is there any way to pause the developments? What tools does the land use committee have?
As far as that, the unfortunate situation with how the AMI is calculated in our jurisdiction is that it encompasses the other counties in New York City, not just ours. And it's an aggregate or an average across all the counties or the districts, or as you could say, I guess boroughs, including Westchester in New York County. And that's why AMIs aren't realistic, you know? And those are HPD. Is it HPD? I'm sorry if I was saying the wrong department, but I'm going to say it's an HPD. It's a government thing that's being used to determine what affordability is. And unfortunately, it's just not realistic in our district. As far as tools, I don't think there's many tools because of how our city is constructed specifically. It affects us in a very bad way. What's affordable to someone in Manhattan isn't the same for what's affordable in Brooklyn. But if you go to the actual aggregate, you know, of how they're calculating that affordability, it includes counties that shouldn't be, you know, and that's the problem that we've often had, and they're using that specifically to speak on what we spoke on before. These are ways that the abatements and the other types of subsidies that they have access to get triggered or have been triggered in the past for them to be able to build these homes and not have to pay exorbitant amount of taxes. Some of those things, like we said in the past, have paused. We are trying to, you know, anticipate its new form and how it comes, but it's a difficult thing, and it's not something that we actually have tools to defend against. We are aware of it, though, quite aware of it.
Yeah. Is there any way to speak with a representative, develop policy?
There you go, Carmel. That's it. That's it, my sister.
Thank you.
That's it, my sister.
No, I believe in action.
Well,
That's
see.
why I believe in action.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And there's stuff that has been developed and actually spearheaded in the past regarding it. Oftentimes we hear about it in short spurts, and then you kind of don't hear about it again, especially when there's administration changes, because when administration changes, their rules changes, and then you're left in a hole of just trying to find information. But yeah, there's always an avenue to speak on something. There's always that conversation has been ongoing and has been going on for quite some time. The damage, we probably experienced the worst of it. But in most recent time, the best thing that's helping us now is the tax abatement that's no longer active, or that's expired. That hasn't stopped everything, but it's not an incentive for developers to come and start purchasing because it's hurting their bottom line, right? No one wants to come and pay what the calculated tax would be for a property in our neighborhoods realistically, right? They won't build without having those subsidies in place. And these things were interwoven into the subsidies or into those things to give the perception of giving affordability, which we know and you know hasn't been the case, you know?
Yeah.
It's something we definitely work on. I'm not, it's a conversation we have yearly, you know?
Yeah.
And in some form and facet, you know, there's council members that do have the conversations about it. There are legislations that have been drawn up. but I don't know if it actually passes through our city council to be addressed, to be honest. The conversation starts, it gets a little bit of fire, then it seems like it fades, unfortunately. But
Okay.
that-
Any new information I find out, I'll share with, everyone. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Brett. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan?
Yeah, hi. Excuse me, I have a hard time reading the chat and listening to the conversation, and I was
Yeah.
just trying to educate myself on City of Yes. So if I missed something and I'm asking a question that was already answered, please excuse me. But with regard to the speculation, which is the real estate speculation that is the result of the people cruising around to find properties to buy, and also the aggressive tactics when we get calls and the like to sell our homes. What happened with the zoning? I mean, if we can keep some neighborhoods zoned low enough, then it's not to their advantage to buy there. So what happened with that?
The zoning is ongoing, Miss James, which is a good thing. I'm happy that you brought that up. It's ongoing. We have a drafted proposal at this time. Is actually going through the community input phase now. I know you haven't been in this actual meeting, but yeah, it's been brought to the general board. We've seen the preliminary drafting of where we want to down and up zone in order to bring it to the DCP to have it executed. So we're in the process of doing something now, and actually, Ms. James isn't here, but we're going to probably have to, or for the best of that implementation and execution, to make sure we have the most community input, we might be using one of the land use committee nights and converting it to like an in-person meeting, or I guess you could call it a town hall meeting, to try to address the issues more publicly, to try to get more people to have impact in person. And I guess where my night falls is probably the best night to try to get that executed. So in the future, possibly in January or sometime within the next 2 months, if we can get the other agencies to agree to a date, we're going to bring them in, and then we're going to have our proposals for the community, and they're just going to be on the sidelines for input purposes, or to acknowledge that the actual thing existed, but ultimately is to finalize the proposed map. So there is a map, there is stuff that's been spearheaded, there is a statement. I believe we even have a new impact, community impact plan that's coming together with one of the universities that we worked with in the past. So it has been going on. The rezoning is a separate thing at this time, but I think that speaking with Ms. James, just trying to coordinate 2 dates and trying to make everything work in the next few months, maybe as early as February, we're going to have a town hall meeting to try to speak more and have more input on the actual map that's being drafted. If you need information on that, it was shared, Joan. I'm sure that if you contact Ms. Frazier, she will give you the preliminary map that's out there. It shows, just briefly, I think they're trying to maintain the R4 zones so that they can't build there, and giving up more of the transit corridors as a compromise, But yeah, sorry. I don't know if that answers you.
Well, it does. It's just that it's still ongoing, and thank you. Thank you for that.
Next hand, Allison.
Just a couple of things. One, just on this, I think it should be mandatory that all the board members attend, because the vast majority of board members who have a voting interest are not on this committee, have never been on this committee, and have no idea what is being talked about when R4, R7, and all those things are thrown around in the room.
100%.
And so they should be required to learn and participate in those sessions. In addition to just educating the general community about it as well. The other thing is, just to Carmel's question, The reason why you see it happening, the development the way it is because most of the area is as of right development. So they don't have to come to the community board to build these things. And they're just maximizing their profit margins based on basic, like what they may need to do an expansion to just get limited affordable housing, but to be able to still meet their targets. We have to develop relationships with developers because of as of right, or if City of Yes moves forward as is, it'll be a free for all. So that means we have to really leverage relationships to get the types of projects that we would want to be built here. And that also means helping developers figure out their capital stacks that will actually provide the levels of affordability and incentives that we're looking for. But that means we have work to do to educate because they're not the most creative people, but we have to bring that to the table ourselves. And that also means involving and getting more involved with our elected officials who often will have conversations with these developers because they're also the people who fund their campaigns. So as a result, we have to be at those tables with them too.
Thank you.
Yeah. The other thing I just want about, and this is, well, maybe I should save this because are we still in new business or are we still talking about?
It's still new business. Yeah.
Well, the one thing I do want to say that is part of City of Yes is about the accessory dwelling units, where that would allow people in the community to add on additional units to their properties. There is, and in support of that, the mayor has released a 15 homeowners would be able to take part in a pilot program that already has thousands of people who have applied, but we have until February 2024 to do this. And you would be able to add on an additional unit, on your yard or convert a garage if you wanted to be able to generate a additional income. You would get $395,000 in a grant to do this work if you wanted to. And there are like eligibility requirements. I'm going to drop the flyer in the chat, a newspaper article about it, as well as the HPD website about it. So if you're interested in it, that's the city version, and there's also a state version as well that you may, if know people who have enough yardage or have a garage that they may not want to use, or even sometimes you can use a basement could also qualify.
It's like, they're calling it the ADUs, right? That's what
Yes,
it is?
it's
Okay.
the plus, the city version
Plus,
is called
yeah.
the Plus One ADU program. So this is the flyer, and then I'll drop more things in the chat.
Thank you, Alexandra, sorry.
Hi. Thank you, Allison, for that information. You answered a couple of things that I had burning questions in my mind. I'd like to know what, if you all think that this is realistic, one idea for how to control the type of building we have in and around our zip code. A little dream I have. I've lived in, I think, 5 different apartments in Brooklyn where I have caught the landlord lying that it was or wasn't rent stabilized. The amount they tried to overcharge me ranges from $100 to $1,000 a month. And I noticed after going through this and there doesn't seem to be any policy in place where landlords get caught with things like this, and then there's any kind of like audit or check, anything that follows. Basically, in my cases, I found that other tenants in the same building were going through similar things, but it seems like these issues are just handled privately within the Department of Housing and Community Renewal. And I was just kind of wondering if we made it a requirement for our landlords. And I know this is a long shot, and I know that Adams is really good friends with the real estate board, but I've been wondering for a long time why we don't have requirements to make sure that Brooklyn landlords are who want to build more or expand more or applying for building permits or something like that. They're not being vetted to make sure that the housing that they currently do run is being run like legally, fairly. They're, they're giving people the rent rates that, just go along with the history of the buildings. I'm just curious if you think that that is anything that could maybe be factored in while all of this building talk is happening.
The building talk, anybody that has any input can definitely come in. But as far as rent regulation, those laws are in place. I mean, the problem with newer buildings is that when they come to market, they're coming to market at the new market rate, right? Like, so whatever the highest value that can get for a new building, that's the reason why newer buildings rents is a lot higher than a more established older building. HPD is supposed to be enforcing rent regulation, I believe. That would be their department to actually do it. And the rent regulation, as you know, you hear the boards every year speaking about the percentages that they allow, which they seem to always allow. I don't think it's ever not gotten a pass of 1 to 3% or 1 to 5% for 2 years in contracts and so on. In a rent regulated building, which I think is any building over 10 units, I have to find out the exact number. Over 10 units, they're supposed to be facilitating that privately. I understand. If there is a situation, it should be reported, which often doesn't happen, which is more the issue. Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Dawes. That's why they'd rather take that on an older building and build up a new one, because they could put it out for the new market rates. And then those new market rates are often regulated in buildings that pass that threshold, or you'll see buildings that build to just under the threshold, just so that they can maintain the market rates for the rents that are there. And then they could increase them inorbitally. Like they could just say, all right, we want to increase it to 3,000 because that's what the market dictates, versus a building that has over, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but over a certain amount of units, it becomes rent regulated. The market rents freeze at the time of implementation, and then can only increase to 1 to 3% depending on the lease of the actual building. There's things in place. I'm sorry that you experienced what you experienced, but there are agencies in place that you should have been able to contact.
Oh,
that
yes.
would penalize the actual landlord, but I'm sure that the fines, I'm sure that they would get away with whatever they try to get away with. I'm sorry, Alex, you were saying something?
Yeah, I've definitely done my research. I've been in court multiple times about these situations. I know that you're speaking from a place of you don't know what the situation was. But for example, I'm in a very old rent stabilized building right now where they're trying to overcharge us $1,000 a month. We're in court. I've reported it to DHCR a year ago. They're working on it. And this is one case, and I know what my rights are for all of these apartments that I've lived in because I've been through this multiple times. But my concern is the pattern. I know that they didn't have the right, and one of these was a new building, but they still lied on the paperwork. They were still charging more than they were supposed to. So I'm really concerned about a pattern of Brooklyn landlords who use buildings like mine, overcharge people. They make more money, and this is an older building, and then they take that money and they go purchase another building to renovate or knock down and build a brand new building, and the cycle just kind of continues. That's what I'm concerned about. And yes, you can report it, you can get somebody assigned to your case, you can win your case, but I still don't see the regulations or the enforcement, I should say, going beyond the individual cases. I guess my bigger question is, how are they allowed to continue to do business when they have so many open cases against them constantly? Like in the real world, if you have a business license and you don't pay your taxes or you don't follow the rules in some way, your business license could be jeopardized, if you don't carry the proper insurance. I feel a little bit like it's the same thing with these landlords. Like they made an agreement with DHCR to provide affordable housing at certain rates to be increased every year or two at a certain amount. but there are loopholes. Not even loopholes, because I think loopholes would imply that it's legal.
Yeah.
You know,
There are
there,
tactics that are used to push people out to try to get the market rent. Other things, which we hear the stories all the time. Miss Fields probably hears the stories more. She's our housing chair. Yeah, it's something that I probably would have to speak to Miss Fields about. She'd probably hear more of those stories, and how it is. But yeah, I guess it's an ongoing thing. From real estate perspective, I don't think you really need a business license to run it, so there's no jurisdiction there. I mean, other than the reporting and the court cases, I'm not sure if there's another avenue. It's something that I never actually had to think about. Actually, intriguing me a little bit. I've never experienced that in my renting days, and I've only known of it of market rents. Like if somebody were to leave or get pushed out of a building, nefariously, so that the landlord can increase that unit to a market rent. And I think that something was passed probably within the last 5 years that restricted what they were doing. What they were trying to push tenants out, and then they would like redo the apartment, past a certain percentage to trigger it being qualified for a new market rate. And I think that they put a law in place that only allowed a certain dollar amount to be put in to prevent that. So I'm actually surprised to hear that that is happening, and it's happening as frequently as you're saying it is. 6 units. 6 units. Thank you for that. Do you have my information, Alex? You can contact me tomorrow sometime. I want to try to just get some more information from you, and then maybe I'll bring in Miss Fields to see what we could do, or see what's been done as far as that in the past.
yeah, I would love to maybe be on that call with you. I can definitely reach out to you. We can coordinate something. Thank you so much.
No problem. Yeah, that's definitely more of a housing thing, but I definitely want to understand what's happening there. Thank you. Thank you for that insight. Ms. Martinez? Your hand is raised. Hazel?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, I have two things to say. One, as long as developers, campaign finance is not changed or regulated, and developers can pay off the politicians, nothing is going to be different. The other thing I passed, do you recall the building at 4401 Clarendon Road? It's a building that was leaning onto the other building house.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, that house has been purchased, and now it is being by an LLC, and now it's being renovated very rapidly. And I am afraid that some unsuspecting individual is going to buy that property, and the same thing is going to happen because all those houses are leaning over there.
So somebody purchased it and they're building it over now?
Yeah. I passed it one couple days after. I was going to go back and take a picture because you could see where the crack was in the bottom of it, but that's all bricked over already.
Yeah, I can't. I haven't driven down that, and I've been taking another way. I see that. Yeah.
I reached out to buildings and I asked them to please have a look at it.
Now, if wow, I wish you would have. Are they permits filed for what they're doing? Are they?
I have no idea. I don't see any. I didn't see any, but I don't know. But I know that building, it was abandoned because of that, and now all
They're
of a
gonna
sudden,
put a Band-Aid over. They're gonna put a Band-Aid over it and sell it to somebody.
yes, because they only purchased it for $375,000.
Sounds like an auction.
Yeah, well, so I mean, so I think you should look into
Bank
it.
sale.
Because,
Huh?
It has to be a bank sale.
Yeah, it seemed like it was something like that. Maybe something to, yeah, something like that to get a book.
What's the address?
4401.
4401 Clarendon.
Clarendon.
I know the building. Looking at
everyone knows the building. I think that it's not registering to memory. It's there. It's always been leaning. It's always been there the entire time.
Yeah,
I just didn't know there was activity. It's the first I'm
But-
hearing that there was activity.
yeah. Well, I saw activity and then I looked it up. Yeah. So that's something to look into because someone's going to purchase it.
Maybe, yeah, for sure. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. As far as
Okay.
that, the thing that you're speaking about kind of happens in New Jersey a little bit. I'm not familiar with New Jersey, but I know that when they apply for permits, it's oftentimes like in New Jersey, they make you apply for new units to go to market, and I think it has to get inspected before that's the case. But a lot of times in these privately owned buildings, the superintendent or something like that, anything that's smaller renovation wise doesn't get triggered. And maybe we need to look into the New Jersey rule. I'm not sure which county in New Jersey does it, but
What are you looking
there is,
for?
there is like legislation or something in New Jersey that when you actually bring a new unit to market, that it has to be, you know, it's like I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's like a new unit application that goes in, and then that's used in order for you to get your lease assigned, and it's done by county. I mean, something like that would probably prevent a lot of this, because then I guess you would have to list your rent, right? There'd be a history there of what your rent was without having to dive into the private ledgers of landlords. And maybe that could be a way. I think that there's things in place elsewhere that could be used and is probably being used to stop stuff like your situation from happening. So I'm gonna look into it, and again, we'll speak. Just get in contact with me. Okay. We'll speak, and then that's it. Allison, is your hand still raised?
Yes, just what was this is off topic now, but I was just gonna say when people are thinking about the IBX project and all of that, they should also be thinking about, you will also start to see a new flood of speculators because as we get potentially more proximity to transportation, the values of these properties will increase. And so people will try to start to get you out of them now, while, especially as we're closer to those lines, because then, the property values will increase once the rail is finished. So people need to start, being smart about thinking about keeping on their hold on their properties that they do have now. Because they're trying to basically time people out of it from now. That's all. So just educate your neighbors about, your property values going to go up as that project moves forward. Especially when you're not right on top of the line, but a little bit further set apart, like most of the people in this area kind of are. So just think about that.
It's a smaller but similar to effect of what happened with the Barclays Center. Maybe not as impactful or as large, but there is going to be something, and it's possibly going to be a tax increase as well. Hopefully not a rapid one, but yeah, if your values go up, then the calculation for your taxes go up as well.
Yeah, but there are limits, per year anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't get to put my information in the chat. Alex, is your hand still raised?
A little bit tighter than that.
Assuming not. Thank you, everybody. As we go into the holiday season, be safe. Obviously, you know that there's an ongoing things. We hear the fire trucks all the time. Something's going on with, especially if you live in buildings or in adjoining properties, when you see these e-bikes and these scooters and the type of batteries that they're using is happening at a rapid pace. The old school things where people are using their oven to heat their homes. There's got to be careful and try to stay aware when we get to these times as it gets colder. Be safe and, just pay attention to what's happening. And it seems to be happening frequently enough that I have to mention here. I feel like I hear it every morning on the news, that along with a lot of vehicle incidents lately. Seems to be a lot of vehicle incidents, a lot of car crashes, a lot of things that are happening as we move on. Have a safe time with your families towards as we approach the end of the year.
Again, keep in mind what's going on with the rezoning. Like we said, you might see some information come through regarding a shift in our next meeting. If we don't have any business on calendar, it may potentially be transition to an in-person possible town hall style meeting. Ms. James isn't here, but I'm giving you that message now. We'll be in communication as the year ends. And everybody have a happy holidays. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Marguerite?
Vanessa
second.
Clarkson seconds it.
Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Everybody have a happy holidays. Be safe. Keep your eyes on the prize, keep your eyes to the streets, and I'll see you next year.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Merry
Happy holidays,
Christmas,
Mr. Lewis.
Happy New Year.
Mr. Raffray. Please check your emails regarding the bikes. We received an email today from Rhonda. She needs an immediate response. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
have a good evening. I'll be back in the office tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier. Everyone have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Happy holidays.